friends, it's me, Marcy Lamberson, and today we are going to make a tropical bead. My friend Maria asked me to show her how to make a bead with a palm tree, some ocean, some sky, and a beach. I think we can do that. And I think I've been dreaming about that kind of vacation, so it should come pretty easily. We are going to use a 3/32 mandrel that I have used Dip and Go Blue Sludge Extra maybe on it. I'm not sure whether it's extra or not, but today it is. And this is going to be the sky. We're going to use this for the ocean, and we're going to use some very light silver to ivory stringer that I've had sitting around for a while for the beach. We're going to use that for dotting. And then for the trunk, we're going to use some browner. I had some old brown mixed up encased stringer. We're going to use that. Any brown will do as long as there's a nice difference from the sand. And then for the green, I've used grass green and Nile green that I've put together, and then I encased it in a transparent sage and pulled it out into stringer. So the transparent sage kind of toned down the Nile green, and it kind of made it a little bit more cohesive. So this is ribbon. And I think the other one's ribbon also, but you can use regular stringer, whatever you want. Any shade of green works also. It's your choice. Now for the oceans are kind of hard for me because I think traditionally we make them very turquoise, but most of the oceans around me are more of a blue, gray, green, murkier color. I think this one might be mermaid or something like that. It's one of the creation is messy glasses. And I thought that would be nice contrast to a sky like that, and then the sky would have the fronds from the palm tree, so that would be good contrast. I was just trying to think of what would contrast well. So I'm going to start off with this. This is 224 Effitre, and we'll start with this as the base bead. And I'm going to go over the top of it for the other colors. I think it's easier just to have one color as the base. You can do a layer of sand, a layer of ocean, a layer of sky, but it seems to me as if you have to make some artistic decisions earlier than later, and I like to have the later ones for my last minute decisions. So I'm going to make a kind of wide tubular bead, and that will take a little bit, so just hang in there. And this one, you just make it the basic way we always make these beads, and if you aren't used to it, make sure that your glass is perpendicular to your mandrel and that your mandrel is parallel to the floor. So what I'm trying to say is you want everything to go on nice and straight. And the straighter it is, the fewer problems you'll have with centering your bead or getting it in the right position. So this kind of makes a T when I'm putting it on, when I'm applying the glass. See that? That's a good thing because that means it's going on straight. That means that the hole that you're making for your bead will have decent ends on it also, which is kind of a nice thing, not worrying about that. And generally it means that your glass is going to go on pretty regularly, which is a good thing in the long run. And you can see that my bead is below the flame, not in the flame, but my glass rod is in the flame. And I'm not so worried that everything goes on perfectly at once because I'm going to be able to marver this and add more glass as I need it. I'm just kind of getting started. Now, different people do it different ways. There's some people who are meticulous at the very beginning. Obviously, I'm not. But what I'm thinking about is I'm going to flatten this on two sides, of course. And so what I'm thinking is I need it to be wide enough for palm tree to be on it, and I want my palm tree to be on a slight tilt because I haven't seen too many that are really straight up. And I want there to be room for some ocean and for some sand and plenty of blue sky because that palm tree is going to take up a lot of the sky space. So I need my bead tall in proportion and wide enough also. Kind of a lot to ask. We can do it though. This is easy. I don't know about you, but I like making different backgrounds on my beads. I like having a scene or doing something that people can kind of relate to. Now, I like things that people absolutely can't relate to, like funny sculptural stuff that I make that people would think, oh, that's really silly. But sometimes a little scenery is really fun for me, and I think it might go back to my time when I would do watercolors a lot. And I loved painting beach scenes and stuff like that too. And funny as it is, I think I'm kind of known for my whimsical sculptural glass, but I didn't do that style when I was painting watercolors. It was more landscapes or animals or things like that that were sweet, but not particularly a side of goofiness to it. Okay, so we're going to keep going a little bit longer. And you see I have a smallish flame. That just kind of keeps control. And using this sky blue, I think that's its official name. This glass, that if it gets too close to the cones, I believe it's the iron comes out in it and it might turn red. If you're using this glass, and that happens to you, there's a fix for it, or one that usually works, and that is if the red comes out, that means you've probably gotten too close to the cones, or you have a little bit too much propane in your flame. So what I need you to do is to turn your flame into a very oxidized flame, you know, where you hear that kind of hissing sound, and make it very small and very oxidized and point it right at the red and run it through the red, and it should pretty much take the red away and send it back into the glass. So try it out if it happens to you. Funny story that kind of goes along with that. My very first time that I melted glass, we were just given, there were some rods and they said pick a rod, and I picked turquoise, which is one of my favorite colors. And there really was no instruction. They turned on the torches and away we went. Well, I thought I had got this magical glass because it was turquoise and it got a deep red on it. I had no idea that I was doing something wrong. And during that time, the teacher really wasn't available. She just kind of sat in the front of the room watching everybody. Maybe she needed to do that for safety reasons. But anyhow, I thought I had gotten the most magical glass ever. I got 2 colors out of it, not just one. So I still have that bead. Sometime I'll show it to you because it's kind of funny. I'm heating my bead and I'm getting it into a nice rosy glow, and I'm looking at the color of it. You see that color there? That means it's got a nice amount of heat in it. And I'm going to take my parallel mashers and just press down gently on them and get my glass pressed. And then we're going to take a look at it in just a sec, but first we're going to hit it up with a little bit of heat to get any chill marks off of it. You know those funny little marks that you get on your glass after you've pressed it? Well, those I don't want, and the easiest way to get rid of those is to put it into the heat kind of up close and just keep going at it until they disappear. It shouldn't take too long or be too hard. Now I noticed on this one that I have a little more glass on this side than I do on this side in this corner. So I'm going to add a little bit more glass to make it even. Nothing wrong with even. And I know that if I didn't want to do it, or if I was out of glass, I could just wrap more glass when I'm doing the beach and the ocean and the tree. I could find a way to even it out that way. But it's easier this way if I get it started out right. And I'm just keeping the bead warm because I pressed it pretty thinly. Let's see. Let's just make sure that that's nice and even. I added a touch more glass. Kind of like them even for some reason. Probably guess why I do sculpture now is because I don't want to spend time making everything even. But heck, if we're going to do it, we might as well do it right. Right? So what I'm thinking, just to give you an idea, I'm going to have a palm tree in the foreground and some sand along here, and then I'm going to need a band of ocean, and then the rest is sky. So I need some ocean a little ways up, and I can always cover it with some of the sand if it's too much. Whoops, that surprised me. And the one thing I want to do is try and get it even along the horizon, because otherwise it just might not look right. So when I put it down, I'm going to try and keep it a little bit raised just to make sure, and I'm going to keep it down lowish. So there's a wrap. Ooh, I came out on the right side. It looks pretty even. Oh, that makes me happy to hear that and see that. Okay, so now this is going to be our ocean. Doesn't look like much of an ocean right now, does it? I'm going to heat it and press it down. And I'm pressing it down this way because I want that top line to stay even. And each time I'm going to press it down towards my hand, heating up just that area. I press down and make sure that that top row stays where it's meant to be. Heat the glass and press it down. There we go. Not exactly even, but not too far off either. Pretty close. You know, this brass is great for pushing the glass around where you want it to go. Brass moves glass while graphite smooths glass. This is a time that I really want to move the glass, so it's a good use for brass. So as long as it's raised a little bit, I have a little more room to push it. Take a straight edge and just push it to where I want it to go. We're still pushing it just a little bit. It's better to go a little bit slowly than too fast. And I better not forget the top part or it's going to come apart on me. So you have a question. Yes, you could have put this on before I press the bead. That is another option. I like to press the bead first. I feel like I have a little more control over the placement that way. And I'm not worried about the ocean and the beach being too small because I've got lots of ivory and I can always add more sand. That's easy. So now I have a horizon. And is there anything else I want in the background? Well, I could put a little cloud in there. I have some encased white stringer, and oftentimes I'll heavily encase this, and I hadn't really thought I was going to do this, so I don't have a heavily encased one, but I've got a little one. And you can just kind of squiggle a little cloud on, and that kind of adds for a little something. I prefer not to do it centered. I like a lot of things off center, and I just kind of went around like this, you know, like we normally see a little squiggle for a cloud that gives it a little bit of shape. And there we go. It's going to be hard to see, but it will be in the details. So I'm keeping the bead warm. And what I can do is, if I put in a cloud and I think, oh, I'm not that crazy about it, although I really like this one, I can always say, okay, that's on the back side. I still have this side for the palm tree. So you got options. Okay, so I do have a cloud on that side. Do I want a cloud on this side? Oh, why not? That other one turned out well. So I just squiggle it around, up, and I'm just kind of making little curvy motions with the encased white stringer. And then I'm going to heat it up and press it in. Having the transparent glass in with your white makes it look a little fluffier, a little more ethereal. Okay, so now we're going to need a palm tree trunk, and I want it, I'm only going to put one on one side, so I got to decide which side. I think I'll put it on this side. I want it to have plenty of palms on it, palm leaves. So I think I only want it to go from about here down here, and it will go in front of the water also. So I'm heating up my brown. A little thinner would have been easier. Let's thin, well, we're going to thin this one out. Make it just a little thinner. That'll be easier to work with. How about like that? We're just letting it cool a tiny bit. Okay, now we got it. Let's heat up the glass. And we're going to go on an angle down low. So, here we go. Just pressing it down on an angle. Want it a little wider at the base? Okay, so we start a little lower and spread it out a little bit. There we go. And with the palm tree, I like to have a little design in it, kind of cut a little bit into it. So I'm heating it up, and I'm going to make little lines in it, kind of the way you picture a palm tree. Of course, I don't live near a palm tree to double check, but I'm just doing a little line like this, and then I can do another little line in the other direction if I want. See how I'm barely heating it up? It's got a rosy glow, and I'm just pressing again into it. Okay. So when it's time to add the beach, we'll just add that beach up around that, and then we can take out some of the ocean that we have there. Okay, but let's do some fronds onto it. And we want them going in a couple directions, and we like them kind of lacy looking. Let's start with a lower one here. And it's going to touch the center and come down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make a point on the end of this, heat up the frond, and we're just going to pull it out a little bit to look more frond-like. You can't have a straight line there. Okay, so oops, got a little green there, but we'll cover that with beach also. Okay, let's do the same for another one. We're going to go up and then down. We want a little more width to it, so there we go. And if it goes around part of the edge, that's okay. Again, we want a little bit of point on this, so I just heated up a tiny bit and pulled it out. Heat up the rest of the bead, make sure we're doing okay. And then we're going to just add a little bit of that lower action like we did before. So heat up the palm frond, and just pull out some edges so it's got a little bit of movement on it. Okay, and I think one more coming out this way over the top of the cloud might be a good idea. So let's do one more, and it will go up and then down. We want a little more width on it, so let's add a little bit more. over that darling cloud. Darn it. I really liked that cloud. That's okay. We got a cute one on the back side too. Making a point on my stringer. Heating up the bead all over. See, we still have another cute cloud. And then we just pull down, and that green frond leaf is nice and warm so that I could do that. Okay, so we've got a palm tree, we've got an ocean and a horizon line, so it looks like we're missing a beach. And then I think we're pretty close. So you can use just plain old ivory stringer, but it will kind of run together. So if you either add another color with it, so it's mostly ivory, and just a little variation never hurts. Now I'm adding a little bit of sand around the edges there. See, we're just covering up. Those are kind of large, aren't they? It's like there are rocks around it. That's okay. We'll pull this a little bit smaller. Now if you want, you could just do plain ivory and then add a few little dots on top of it. That would work too. But I do need to cover all the blue and green with beach. So while that's cooling there, start covering up some of the other area. So in previous beads, when I did ocean, sometimes I would add a little bit of that encased ivory, encased white, like I used for the clouds, that I would make little white caps out in the water, just little lines, wavy lines, not too many. I'm still covering the blue over here. This is not the most pristine beach, that's for sure. Let me pull this a little bit thinner so I can get in close to the mandrel. If it's too gray from the silvered ivory stringer, you could just add more ivory stringer or a touch of white, depending upon the color of your sand. Whatever sounds good to you. I'm just taking my tool that evens the bottom up a little bit. There we go. So we've got a beach, we've got a tree, got a little cloud, we've got an ocean. Gonna add the little white line on the ocean. For the fun of it, we're going to make this really skinny than what we have. And we're going to heat up the rest of the bead. And we're just going to do a little squiggle of white. Barely any heat on the bead. Now you may choose other colors that might be better for you, and that's great. I think whatever works best, whatever works for your artistic thoughts on how something should look. This, I think, almost needs a beach chair, doesn't it? And a big umbrella. But anyhow, here you go. Here is a palm tree and then ocean with a little bit of white and a little bit of beach. This one's for you, Maria. Hope everybody else enjoys it too. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye.